Welcome to Collector's Therapy, and welcome back to the second video in my first time reading series where I review classic and iconic comic book stories. And what we're going to be reviewing today is X-Men Inferno. But before we get into that, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe so you can keep up with all the other content I'm working on. So some of y'all may be wondering, Chris, how is this the first time you're reading X-Men Inferno? It's like over 30 years old. And honestly, the answer's kind of simple, I actually didn't grow up reading comic books. I watched, the Batman movies growing up. I watched the Batman animated series, Spider-Man animated series, X-Men animated series, so on and so forth, but I never really read the comics. It's only been the past few years I've actually been getting into reading the actual comics, so I think it would be fun to do first time reading reviews where I read these iconic stories and give my thoughts and reflections. I thought this story was crazy epic. Maybe one of the most epic things the X-Men universe has done up to this point in the XMen lore. I mean, it wrapped up so many stories within the X-Men universe between Cyclops, Madeline Pryor, and Jean Grey coming back, which X-Factor started out with Jean Grey coming back. And this ended with what? X-Factor number 38, 40? No, 40. So yeah, that's like 3 years worth of storylines when X-Factor came out once a month. So yeah, you've got wrapping up the whole magic story between her and the Dark Child, because she actually went back to being a child by the end of this. You've got Mr. Sinister, his story, and why he is so interested in Cyclops and Jean Grey. Let's see here. This collects X-Factor number 33 to 40. And the X-Factor Annual number 4, Exterminators 1 through 4 limited series, and Uncanny X-Men 239 to 243, and New Mutants 71 to 73. The actual book is fairly simple when you take the hardcover off, or the dust jacket off. Very simple. It doesn't have any kind of animated panels like the Mutant Massacre, because this is actually an oversized hardcover. They actually are working on reprinting this in omnibus form with everything in this issue and all of the crossovers, which I did not read because it didn't come with this, and from what I could tell from research, the crossovers didn't really add to the story. Alright, so let's get this baby opened and let's crack it open. So, awesome art. This is the Dark Child, and hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right, Nastier. So, what we've got here is the first few issues of this. Exterminators is really where they got it into the demons and goblin stuff, which, honestly was a little silly. You had some of the goblins trying to kidnap babies and to use them. I think they actually were mutant babies. But when it really started picking up for me is this issue, where you really get to learn a lot about Mr. Sinister, kind of what some of his powers are. He fought observed some of the X-Men in the astral plane. You get into some of the New Mutants and X-Factor stuff that continues to unravel some of the demons. The New Mutant stuff with magic and her transforming into the Dark Child, that plays a very big role in the demon aspect of the stories. because it's actually her that ends up opening up the doorway between Earth and Limbo. There's the Dark Child. And that just plays out, but when it really picks up, in my opinion, is around here, because this is just an iconic panel right here. You find out that Mr. Sinister is actually Madeline Pryor's father, since he created her as a clone of Jean Grey. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but it just worked for me. And from this on through the rest of the book is just absolutely insane. You've got Madeline Pryor kind of orchestrating a battle between the X-Men and X-Factor, because X-Men don't really know the truth about Madeline Pryor, or the Goblin Queen at that point. Awesome issue. Just pure comic book craziness. And I loved it. We get into a Phoenix versus Phoenix battle somewhere here, and this is that issue. That is crazy. Just to see some of the art panels and just seeing that, man, it's just awesome stuff. I will give a quick flip through to some of the, there we got kind of the Phoenix and Phoenix battle. When they introduce X-Men, X-Factor versus Mr. Sinister, wow. Yeah, that stuff was even crazier than the X-Men versus X-Factor and Phoenix versus Phoenix. So to give my concluding thoughts, like I said, this story is freaking epic on every scale. It's really hard for me to put it in line with some of the other X-Men stories, because yeah, some of the Goblin stuff was a little cheesy. But once you get into unraveling the mystery behind Madeline Pryor, her being a clone of Jean Grey, and Mr. Sinister going after Cyclops' baby, Nathan Summers, who ends up becoming Cable later on, that was just wow. Some of the craziest comic book stories or issues I've honestly ever read. And when I was reading through the very end, when it's the X-Men versus Mr. Sinister, wow. Mr. Sinister was frickin' OP as hell. It really gave me vibes of Thanos in Infinity War and Endgame, with just how he was just brushing off everything the X-Men were giving him, and just the way that they go on to defeat Mr. Sinister, I thought was really clever. I'm not going to spoil that part for you, obviously, but man, that was awesome. And yeah, this has got to be up there with some of my favorite X-Men stories up to this point within the Chris Claremont run, because man, it got epic. Even if some of the, Dark Child and New Mutants and Goblin stuff was a little cheesy, not necessarily my favorite, I do feel like you kind of have to get the prologue if you want to fully grasp the urgency of the Goblin part of the story and how that takes over Manhattan and the rest of the Marvel universe. But like I say, once it gets into the nitty-gritty of Mr. Sinister, I absolutely loved it. I was a little surprised, spoiler warning, that they killed off Mr. Sinister. Just because, obviously, he's not really dead. But man, they made him freaking awesome. And he's got to be one of my favorite X-Men villains after reading that. So I'm very excited to see what they do with him as I continue to read more X-Men stuff. So let me know in the comments, what did you think of Inferno? How do you rank it in comparison with some of the other X-Men stories? And also, let me know some other classic and iconic stories that I should feature in my first time reading videos. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review, because this is an awesome story. And I can't wait to finish up the Chris Claremont run and give my overall thoughts on that, because yes, I am reading the Chris Claremont run for the very first time, and I'm reading the whole shebang. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.